Hello, YouTube and Rumble. Cody here, aka Devi2100, and today's video, I want to do a little two-parter here. I was originally going to do a one part of this video, but I figured I'd kind of lump two things into one. Um, First part of the video, I wanted to go over the fact that like I was sitting there watching a bunch of vaping piper videos because I was watching about like meerschaum pipes and then just some of his other ones that he does and has already done on his channel. So I was watching a bunch of Nathan's videos, and then I forgot that I hadn't watched the newest Vogue Show video, and so I was like, all right, let's go check out Richard's video, and it was funny because he was talking about something that was you know funny about the fact that it's kind of a unique shift between you know the way information is kind of coming out about tobacco is kind of as far as I'll say that. So YouTube doesn't try to get rid of the video because there are certain things you can and cannot talk about when it comes to tobacco in that regards. Um, but there's a lot more things that are in favor in that regard versus in negative aspects of it, and a lot of it's coming out of doctors that are doing studies and research into it, especially with a certain compound that is found in tobacco, that is also found in like tomatoes and celery and other vegetables. um, I do believe bell peppers, I think, is also another place where you can find the ingredient that is normally a stimulant, as we all know it. I find it funny that for a long time people would try to call it a carcinogenic, and that's actually not the case. It is not a carcinogenic. Um, it is one of those things that where you really have to kind of be careful with the wording of it. Um, but because of the fact that he was bringing it up, it reminded me a lot of the studies we see that are coming out over here in the United States, and that a lot of the actual, you know, drive to change how regulations have been on, let's say like vaping, for instance, how much everybody wanted to villainize vaping. In regard to that, I honestly still feel that vaping is nowhere near the demon that cigarette smoking is. But when we talk about cigarette smoking, again, I'm talking about factory made cigarettes that are sprayed with a ton of chemicals, or the papers themselves are sprayed with a ton of chemicals, and that creates the addiction that you see people have for the actual, like, the need to go and go and and smoke consistently. And it's funny because there was actually a comment in on his video from somebody who made a point to say, it's really funny, my father smoked a pipe all the time, but he only ever smoked it at nighttime after work. He never smoked during the day or whatever the case is. It was always just after night. How many cigarette smokers do you really know can wait an entire day before they smoke a cigarette? I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know any cigarette smoker that actually can do that. Now, somebody might argue and be like, well, wait a minute, hold on. Don't you smoke a pipe all day? Yes, because I have that ability to do so. If I didn't have that ability to do so, I would definitely have to curtail my pipe smoking around breaks, or, whatever the case is, before work, after work, and again, during breaks. That would be the main course. Like I would still be trying to smoke throughout the entire day. Like I said, it'd be before work, during my breaks. Even if it's a 15-minute break, sure, I'd run outside, take a couple puffs off of a pipe real quick, and just relax for a second, and then get right back to work. Lunch break, you take a hour break, and then there you go. You can, you maybe grab like a bite of an apple or something like that, real quick, and then you smoke a pipe real fast, and boom, there you go. Run back to work, and then you're pretty much probably smoking that one bowl all throughout the day at work, and by the time you get home, you can load a fresh bowl. By that point, unless you happen to walk to work like I'd probably have to do, then I'd probably, make sure that I had another pipe with me, so I could load a bowl for the walk home. And then when I got home, I'd tap out that other pipe and everything else and grab one of the other pipes to load up and smoke. Uh, but again, that would be, in my case. But it got me to thinking, though, about all that. And, and about like how it's kind of unique because like you look at Australia, right? Australia, it went from pretty much banning, uh, all this vaping, all the vaping stuff, and then putting it into, hospitals and stuff where it was like you got to go get it as like a prescription, and the pharmaceuticals and pharmacies were like, no, 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 we don't want to do that. And as far as I know, I think like smoking is pretty much kind of going out the door over there in Australia as well. Um, and then you have over in England where you got all of a sudden, because of at least I feel like it's a lot to do with the geopolitical aspects of it. Um, that all of a sudden they're like, yeah, you're not allowed to now smoke because by 2030 they want to try to ban tobacco. Um, and it's kind of weird because England has always been the more pro vape country since vaping has been coming out. And then, and I feel like that's probably also why Richard, doesn't like, vaping amongst probably, I'm sure, other things. Um, again, as a person who, I still technically use vape, and everything, but I enjoy my pipe much, much more. And it's funny because I use that for a more concentrated form of nicotine. Um, which is even funnier to actually make the mention that that's only 3 milligrams of it. And I will often feel that is stronger than my pipe. Now, I would say it's almost equivalent to maybe my English I have in here. I have some Consummate Gentleman from Ashton Tobacco in here. And this, well, maybe because of the Latakia that's in it, maybe possibly. Um, because it's pretty much the usual suspects of like uh, Virginia. Um, I don't think there is burley in this because as far as I know, Englishes can't have burley in them. I think there's some Cavendish in there. It looks like there's Cavendish, but then I know there's for a fact though Latakia in there. So there's a lot of different types of tobaccos in there that are going to make it a lot richer. There's no toppings. The most is probably case with like I think like a sugar water just to make sure that it stays hydrated enough because it's fairly pretty fluffy for tobacco. It's not too moist. It's almost like the moistness of Prince Albert. Really, it's great. You can load a bowl. It's got a really nice smokiness to it. Um, I've actually had to add a pinch of a Carter Hall to it as well because for whatever reason, if you smoked it too, either too fast or too much of it, back to back, the second bolt always gave you this lavenderish floral note, and I just was not a fan of that. So I put the Carter Hall in it, which is mainly a Burley and Virginia mix, and it really helps take that out and leaves that smokiness and almost like a hickory flavor that you get from the Latakia that's in that Consummate Gentleman. It's just so good. I really like the flavor of the English on that one. Just like I really love Haunted Bookshop. That the Perique in that has got a really dominating punchiness in it. For being I want to say that one is like only like 10 or 20% Perique versus the Virginia that they use in it. But the strength of that Perique is just so strong that it really shines. Amongst that. And actually, no, I think Haunted Bookshop is not Virginia. I think it's Burley. So I think it's called like a burper because they have Burley Periques are called burpers, and then or however they pronounce that. And then you have Virginia Periques are called vapors. VAPER, um, not POR, which would be vapor. Like this would be vapor. Whereas a vapor, at least that's how we like to try to like distinguish it, right? Vapor is a Virginia Perique blend. And like right now I have in my church warden here, I have some of the Smoker's Pride Vanilla Cavendish, and that'll actually be kind of in part for the second part of the video here that I have here. But then when he was talking about the fact that it would be possibly banned by 2030. Now I would like to hope that something can happen and they can save that because that would be horrible to hear that. But it is kind of funny because over here in the United States they are very anti-vaping and wanting to push people more back to the tobacco companies. Uh, Unfortunately, though, the tobacco companies that they would rather, I should say rather, but the ones that they're benefiting at that in that regard are big tobacco. Now, who I would like to see better benefit is cigar and pipe tobacco companies, because at the end of the day, that's where these doctors are finding the study at, is with premium high grade tobacco that is, usually found in high grade cigars and pipe tobacco. You know, you might think that Prince Albert is low grade tobacco because it's, maybe it's because you're the thought process, oh, was from South America, Nicaragua, that it must not be as good. And it's like, no, actually, it's really good. And in fact, some of the best cigars are Nicaraguan cigars, actually, in my opinion. I mean, even the uh, the what is it? The Garcia, what is it? Papin Garcia, I think is his name. The the father of of my father's cigars, the great company of cigars. But of course, you have the Habanas that think that uh, Cuban tobacco is still at the premium, and it's like, dude, your shit's under a communist dictator. I don't think it's going to be that good. I'm sorry to say, I really don't. I still think that Nicaraguan produces the best tobacco, and I mean, luckily enough, that's where Prince Albert is made, since it's no longer made in America. And that's the sad part, American tobacco has really kind of, I felt like, beyond just taking a back seat. Luckily we still have places like in South Carolina that are doing things. Knock on wood, keep those going, please. We really need to keep things like that. Booming and stuff. I would love to see Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, really come back as being the tobacco capital that it once was. Producing the just absolute bootload, buttloads and buku loads of fucking tobacco, so that everybody has a guaranteed blend of their choice at at all times and at any time of the day. It would be great, and it would be great to see more people get back to smoking pipes and cigars. Let's bring back smoking rooms. Let's bring back a lot of these things that would, I think, encourage more socialness too. Um, there's a lot that there is to be said about being able to smoke like that, um, in an environment with each other. Uh, versus it being like a cigarette smoke, right? It's a whole different beast. It's a whole different beast. It really is. Um, it's really hard to explain to somebody without you having to really either have to know someone or do it yourself to really get to experience what that is and what we mean by that. And while I keep rambling here, I'm actually going to let my church warden up here. Finish this bowl of vanilla Cavendish in here. But it also got me thinking, though, by 2030, you know, if, especially for all my friends across the pond there, what is your goal? What would be the tobacco you would stock up on if you have to stock up on all that? Or do you move somewhere like, maybe to like Poland or something like that, where, pipe smoking is much more loved there. You got Mr. Brog pipes, which, by the way, the website is finally back. I say that with a little leeriness because I don't want to see all the pipes I love get just bought out instantly. But hey, maybe that means it'll encourage them to make a ton of more and restock all of them again. That is where I got this bad boy, the old number 21 Army here. Let's see if we get that to focus. There we go. Cover my face there. Camera on focus. It's kind of hard to see, but there is an engraving on there that says Mr. Brog, number 21, Old Army. So this is the one with the windscreen. That's why I actually got this guy. And they actually have another one with the windscreen called the Kaiser. So And that was set that right next to the meerschaum so it keeps it sitting up. Here I got my apple crumble by Aaron Go Bragg loaded in my meerschaum pipe for afterwards. But so yeah, I would like to know what you guys, like I said, what would be the tobacco you would stock up on? Is there any new pipes you would buy? All that jazz. And for all of us over here in the States, the question kind of extends to you guys, like where do you think you'll be at in your pipe smoking journey? Do you think you'll be adding new pipes to your collection? Is there any tobacco that you're trying to seek to cellar so that you can see maybe how long you can cellar and maybe try it and maybe even have that be like a let's try it in 2030 type of deal. And it's only 4 years away too, so you could probably get something like a Burley or a good English and let it age after a good while. But I know there's a Bremen video that it talks about the limitations on cellaring, and I'm actually curious to watch that one to see what he says about where are the limitations on cellaring your tobacco at. Mm. Such a good smoke. Now, speaking of cellaring, that actually goes into my next part of this video here. The second part, actually, the part that I was actually going to do of this video because I wanted to originally do this one about the Codger blends, but because I've only really done Carter Hall and Prince Albert, I haven't yet got to try Velvet, which I've heard a lot of great things about Velvet. Half and Half, another one. Granger. There's a lot of Codger blends I really, really want to just get my hands on, and then be able to go through them all to really be like, this is why they stand out amongst all of the rest. Now, I will say, uh, the video I will do about Carter Hall and Prince Albert are about why I think that they are some of the better, at least of the Cadre blends and why they are such a staple still to this day, much like something like Granger and Half still. But why, in my opinion, I think that the whole no frills type of thing, there's no bells and whistles. It's just you're getting with Prince Albert you're getting pure burley tobacco. With Carter Hall you're getting burley and I think bright and red Virginia mixed in. That's it. There's no topping. It's just tobacco, and that right there is something really really special because if you can just do that good and that right that it literally just lends itself to the natural flavors of the actual leaf that shines so well in those bowls that they also don't offer any tongue bite and you can smoke them all day long every day. You really don't feel like you get burnt down on them is a really great effect with those tobaccos, and that they come in these big tubs that will last you a good while. There's no way you're gonna go, through this even in a month. I would argue, straight to smoking just that tobacco alone. I've even tried to do it, and the farthest I've gotten in there is about maybe that far into it in 1 month. Not a lot, not a lot into that. If you consider that as 14 ounces of tobacco, and I still have the Carter Hall, and I have Hers at Home Sweet Cask as well. So yes, we have quite a bit of those tubs that are definitely packed. Then we got this guy here. Now this one it says Sanctuary on the top because I originally had a bunch of Sanctuary from the cigar lounge I go to in this one. But what I did was once I got low enough, I put it into one of my little jars over there, and then I put in this guy, the Smoker's Pride Vanilla Cavendish. Now, here's the thing, right? The Vanilla Cavendish. When I first got it, it's not changed the smell by any means. The smell has actually maybe gotten stronger on the vanilla side than what it once was when I first got it. But taste, it's not that it got subtle, it's that all of a sudden the tongue bite that was almost every time you lit up the bowl, it didn't matter if I dried it out. If I had, didn't dry it out, or if I was using a narrow stout bowl, or if I was using a wide mouth bowl, or a more kind of like tapered bowl or conical bowl, it didn't matter. Tongue bite all the time. And so I was kind of like, all right, this has just got to be bad tobacco. Yeah, here. And I was like, there's got to be something about this. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try to give it to somebody who might actually like it. Well, the problem is though, locally, I've not met a lot of actual pipe smokers, so I don't know a lot of people who might enjoy it. And so I was like, well, crap, I don't know anybody who's gonna take this off my hands. So that way I could just go and be like, hey, trade, or here, just take it and have it, have a good time with it, or come over and smoke, and I'll give you the whole jar of tobacco. As a bribe to get somebody to come and hang out and smoke pipes with, because it's a fun social experience. Funny enough, it's sitting in this jar. I just kind of had one of those moments as I was going through the Colt Blurred Moon I have over there, over in this jar. This is what we got left of the Colt Blurred Moon. And as I was sitting there smoking, I was like, oh man, I don't want to just burn through all of this guy, especially with just the fact that most of the smoking of my Colt Blurred Moon was just in the vein of trying to get the pipe to color. My meerschaum pipe. And so I was like, look, I don't want to just make that the only reason why I smoke it out of there, because I usually only smoke my Blood Red Moon out of my church warden. And so I was like, well, I do got that vanilla Cavendish still. I was like, I could load up a bowl and see how it is, and we see if I get some tongue bite out of that or not. And we'll load in the meerschaum. And I was like, okay, load it up, smoke a little bit. I was being very hesitant. I lit it very carefully. No tongue bite. So then I'm like, okay, well, I like the flavor of this. I can actually enjoy the flavor now. I can actually notice it more. The room notes, I'd say a 2 out of 5. It's not the greatest, but it's a subtle, mild, note there. It's a nice vanilla, but it's just not like, oh wow, it smells so great. Like the autumn evening, you smoke that. It's like, oh man, did you make some pancakes in here? You're like, oh, that smells delicious. The Blood Red Moon. It's like, ooh, is that a chocolate vanilla cherry cupcake you got in this house? You know what I mean? Like you can smell that like bakery kind of vibe. So I was like, okay, it's a subtle on the room note. It's got good flavor, but no tongue bite. So then I'm like, all right, we smoked a couple bowls out of the meerschaum pipe. I'm like, maybe it's just a meerschaum. So the next one I did out of was my Dracula, my Peterson Dracula pipe. And I was like, pretty much in my mind, I was like, look, if it can be good in this guy here, this beautiful piece, right, then I'm like, I will be fairly satisfied with that. Went well in this. So then I took it one more step further, and I used not the Zulu, sorry, but the Calabash by Aaron Go Bragg. So this is the Calabash that I have. This is the Castleford number 1001 by Aaron Go Bragg, which was originally made by Peterson. So, and I do love the thickness of that. There's a very meaty stem and bowl and everything. So good sized bowl on this. This is definitely like boom, like damn near my whole pinky it goes in there. So I was like, all right, if it can smoke in that with no tongue bites in that entire bowl, and not sour or anything like that, awesome. So it worked. Great bowl, obviously. Because I'm talking about it right now, right? It was absolutely fantastic. And then it brought me to that point where I was like, maybe this one really just needed a lot of time to really just kind of sit in a jar and really have its time to ferment, or just kind of break down some of the sugars in there, and everything like that a little bit better. And like I said, it still smells just as pungent as the first day I opened up the bag of Smoker's Pride to try this out. Now this is the vanilla Cavendish, and they have a cherry Cavendish, a whiskey, classic blend, rum cured, and black Cavendish. And honestly, I wasn't down to try any of the other ones at all. I literally was like, I'm never gonna try any of those other ones. Whatever. Like now, I'm like, I will probably try like every single one of them, because I'm really curious to try. Like, I wish I could try a smaller version though of the whiskey and possibly the rum, classic cherry and black. I know I'd probably like those. The classic, I feel like will be closer to like an English or like a hybrid kind of style, which is non-aromatic style. Black Cavendish will have probably. I'm assuming that kind of same vibe as the vanilla Cavendish, at least from what I've read. Cherry, obviously, is gonna be like probably lane limited berry cherry. That's really something I'm assuming. Maybe I'll get lucky and it's more leaning towards the kind of cherry that's in the Cornell and Deal dark cherry Cavendish, which is a delicious, delicious smoke as well. In fact, actually, I have some of that left in one of my little tins right here. This is the limited BCA, but right here, and I've marked it with a little Sharpie on my Cult Blood Red Moon. This guy is actually not Cult. This is anybody with the trained eye will know too as soon as you see the tobacco too, because Colt is very heavy with the black Cavendish, and this has like no black Cavendish in it. It is the dark cherry Cavendish, by Cornell and Deal, and it's just such a good pleasant smell, and it's very natural on the cherry, on both the scent and the flavor. So, and it creates a great room note as well too. So, and then this connoisseur's choice, by the way. There's not connoisseur's choice. I accidentally took the sticker off that I had on here originally. This guy is my little secret stash of Haunted Bookshop. I love the smell of this one so much, chat. It is why I've been conserving this one so much. Is I absolutely love this blend so much, and what I love too is they give you these really healthy chunks of I do believe it's either this is Perique flake or Virginia flake. I can't remember. I'll have to read the description again, or somebody in the comments section. You guys can let me know down below, because I can never remember off the top of my head if it's Perique flake or Virginia flake. But oh man, I love that they give you those flakes, and it reminds me of the Virginia flake you get in the sweet Killarney. And the sweet Killarney flakes, Virginia flake, is just so tasty. And it says it's a red Virginia flake, but I almost would say it tastes more like a bright Virginia because I get more breadiness, which is normally a bright Virginia note. Whereas you get the more grassy hay kind of vibe from the red Virginia. Or sorry, grassy citrus vibe. You get the bready hay vibe from the, what you call it? The bright Virginia. And then the Black Cavendisher by Lane Limited. Honestly, it's a great one. I really love this one. I always love when I find little pieces of regular burley that didn't get steamed fully, so it's like a brown Cavendish. Actually, I'll keep that. We'll throw the tiny little piece right there. I almost just threw it in the ash, and I was like, no, I'm gonna toss that away. But obviously, black Cavendish. And again, for those that are not used to pipe smoking, this is what black Cavendish looks like, as its name is. It's black. It's steamed burley, usually, to make this. And it smells like chocolate milk, I swear. It smells so good, and it tastes just as good. I love some black Cavendish from Lane Limited. Honestly, it's a good one to get. I would grab another couple, 2 ounces of that when I can. Just because, honestly, it's like I said, it's a great tobacco. Absolutely love that one. And it was just like I said, surprising though when I had the Smoker's Pride originally because it gave me a lot of tongue bite. It did not impress me in any way. Right, I was kind of like, man, that was $30, waste of money right there on tobacco. I was like, I'm not even gonna smoke this tobacco anymore. This was literally packed to the top. Okay, like I'm saying, like literally to the very brim. I had to like push it down a bit when I put the top on. All right. getting violent. Mm. We are that low into it already. You see what I mean, chat? Like, it's it's got a good healthy bit taken out of it already, you know? And especially when you're smoking just out of the meerschaum pipe, which is not that big of a bowl, like that's like a lot more than you might think taken out of there. Whereas uh, if I was using something like my Peterson 302 here, standard system, right? Which is I saw that Pipe Philosophy has the 301 version of this, and like as soon as I saw it at first, I was like, oh, I'm like that's a Peterson standard system. Like, I love that. And I was like, oh, wait, I'm like, does he have the same exact one? The way he was covering his hand just around like this, I was like, wait, is that a 302 as well? And it's like, no, he has the 301. So this is the 302. It's the extra large bent apple, and again, it's a P lip. I have a little softy bit on the top there, but the bowl is the crowning champion on that guy, and I love the wall on this too. So lovely, lovely pipe, lovely clencher, and it's just such a good smoker. Absolutely great smoker on that guy. And I brought the pipe rack over here because honestly, even though I do like having it on the bookshelf and all, because it does look, it looks nice over there. I hate not being able to just rotate out my pipes as quickly as I would like to. You know what I mean? Like there's sometimes when I'm smoking, especially if I'm watching something or if I'm editing a video and stuff, and I really want to like think about something as I'm editing a video. I want to like smoke a pipe. Like today, I was smoking my Barosini here, my author pipe, and I love this pipe. Just like I love my Roma Roposo. And I was like, I really just want to be able to sit and you just work on something while using my pipe, and that's exactly what I was doing today. I was like, all right, earned it out, and you're type it away on the MacBook. And again, it's one of my favorite ones to work with, and also to use when I'm also reading and stuff. So I had that while we were doing some Bible reading tonight, and it was it was just that perfect, one to have as you're kind of like reading. You use it as like a pointer in the Bible. Then I mark your spot, boom, and then as we're like taking turns reading, I can then sit there like and pop on the pipe while I'm listening to it, like all right, and think more about the verses that are being talked and everything like that, and kind of ponder upon the words, the meaning, and the messages behind them more, and more deeply about them. And I swear these contacts, I'm going to rip my eyeballs out. I hate the fact that my eyes just will not cooperate. I need to just get some glasses here soon. I need to get a pair of glasses, and then I need to get a pair of backup pair. So that way, and then some contacts, because quite literally my eyes are shot. I am tired of wearing contacts at this point. Just for I would love a good week break of no contacts and let my eyes actually breathe. Because yeah, I've been wearing contacts for so long now. I've actually forgotten what it's like to actually just have glasses on it now again. So it'd be nice to actually have those. So also because it does fool a lot of people with just having the contacts in. That everybody just thinks I have great vision a lot of the times. Like, I wish, man, do I wish. And for those that also argue that like you got to keep your pipe lit all the time, through like every bowl you're smoking, the thing I would argue about with that is that the downside of that is that eventually you're probably going to burn a hole in your pipe, or you're going to put it too much, heat stress on it that it might crack. Um, you know, the the point of smoking a pipe is not to like I gotta speed through, I gotta smoke my balls. Blah, blah, blah. Enjoy the tobacco. Mm. And I say that because I know there's a lot of young guys around my age that are constantly in the comment sections being like, "Oh, this guy's not a real pipe smoker because his pipe went out," and they'll say like on Richard's videos and others and stuff like that. And it's like, what is the point of you saying that? Like, are you a cigar smoker? Do you think that you need to keep a pipe going just like you need to keep a cigar going? It's like it's a completely different ball game, brother. A very much different ball game when it comes to smoking a pipe versus smoking, a cigar. You know, when you're smoking a cigar, you are, yes, you want to keep it, lit, but you don't want to just sit there puff on it. You want to, you want to have a slow but steady cadence. Same thing with the pipe. Use this guy here 'cause I think it's a little bit more of a feel in it. So yeah, the lighter's a little bit hotter there. Mm, You know, and again, like like I said, I'm not sitting here trying to like make a guide of like or sit here and be like I know better than no, like I'm telling you because I've seen so many of the older guys tell in their videos that like you gotta have a slower cadence, you gotta be smoking slower, you gotta do this, you gotta do that, and it's like well obviously they're saying that it's probably because somebody somewhere is screwing up, either in the comment section or they've seen it in person. And even myself, I know I'm pretty bad about it sometimes because I'm chasing the flavor so much. Again, when you come from vaping and it's just this is pure flavor in this tank. You normally when it's full, that's a fairly empty tank right now. I'll fill it up with some juice like this, and it's like a strawberry cheesecake. So it's strawberry, like a strawberry drizzle on top of cheesecake with a graham cracker crust. That's what you're tasting. And I know some people are like, okay, well that's nice. Why don't you just go eat it? Well, I don't want to be a fatty because I mean I know some people's like, well, just have some self control and just eat one slice. Damn it! It's like you say that, but man, it's a cheesecake. I mean, isn't the cheesecake meant to be eat the whole thing? Isn't this one of those for one person? I mean, I thought that's what it was. So it's like the same concept of me, like in donuts and eclairs and other pastries and and goodies like that. It's like I like those. That's why I used to vape stuff that tasted like that because I didn't want to go and sit and munch on all that all the time. Uh, and it's funny because with smoking, tobacco like this, you wouldn't think you'd be able to quench that sweet tooth the same way. The Colt Blood Red Moon does a really good job of doing that. This Vanilla Cavendish actually does a really good job, and I pointed that way, but it's actually over there. Another one that really does it is the Autumn Evening. It's that sweetness, that like actual like uh, breakfastiness of that one that really just makes me go, delicious maple syrup. It's like, oh, that's so good. And you quench that little bit of a taste that you have for for certain flavors, and it's nice to be able to do that with smoking because then I don't have to feel like, well, I'm like, well, I can just do my vaping for my flavors and do this because at the end of the day, I can still just smoke my tobacco for the flavors if I really want to. But am I still gonna vape? Sure, I'll still vape, but I mean, I'm starting to, have like more and more reasons for why I might end up stopping vaping and just stick with pipe smoking, and again, I am just very impressed with the way that it has been a really, nice shift and change, going into it versus it being like when I remember first starting vaping, it was really hard at first to really just kind of get used to doing that and not smoking cigarettes. Um, and for this, there's literally moments where I'm kind of like when I'll hit my vape after having smoked a pipe, and I'm just like, all right. Then I just set it down. A couple hours later, I'll maybe be like, you know what, I want to vape it. And there's that again. There's not that like drive of I need to hit, I need to smoke, or I need to vape, right? The reason why I predominantly smoke throughout the day is one because I enjoy it so much, um, and because I feel like going, well, I'm here, I'm not, maybe I've just got done doing dishes, maybe I've got done vacuuming, whatever the case is. I'm like, I'll sit down and smoke a bowl, real quick, just a quick one. It's great to have some of the smaller pipes. I can just load up a quick, 20, 30-minute bowl, smoke really fast, maybe only do like, 10, 15 minutes and put it down and go do something, pick it up, smoke some more, put it down, finish it later, or finish that second time, whatever, and continue going. But, you know, I think that it would be great to see more people smoking a pipe, but the other thing though too is, again, it's that know that if you're smoking a pipe, that it's not about, keeping it lit the entire time. It's not a race, and it's about the enjoyment. Like again, I not only did I see Richard say that in his just recent video, but I've seen now Nathan Vaping Piper say that in several of his videos. I've seen, Mutton Chop Chris say it, several times. And just, like Adam, was good, from Get Pipe said it as well. It was funny too, because like, both him and Mutton Chop both have had as a moment of saying the same exact thing too, of being like, one of the commonalities is that if you feel like you're having fun and you're enjoying it and you're having a blast smoking a pipe and it's fun, do you like that? You're doing it right. Like, at the end of the day, don't let anybody else tell you how else to do it as long as you're enjoying it. The only thing I would actually say is just don't use a torch. Just to help with on the longevity. Even if you have a pipe that you think, like a immersion pipe that can hold up to 2,000 degrees Celsius, it's like, sure, can it potentially, withstand a torch? Sure. Should you still use it? No. And the biggest part of that is that it's going to overtly roast your tobacco. It's like, sure, you're burning your tobacco in a slight way, yes, but it's more so about like smoldering your tobacco, not burning it so much as smoldering it, because that's really where the flavor and the essence of all that is coming from. It's not about just blasting it with heat and heat, smoke. No, the smoke carries flavor to it. You know, when you actually hit those certain temperatures, those certain ranges, certain notes will come out more than others depending on the wideness of your bowl. Can you allow the complexities of like aromatics and stuff to be able to develop fully throughout the bowl versus a tall share, tall, or short, just narrow bowl is going to be able to be better for, just I would say like a straight Virginia or stuff like that, or, like Englishes where it's not overtly complex, but it's going to need, a decent amount of heat to kind of go through it because of usually the cuts or the style of those blends, you know. Drink a soda here real quick. So it is something to, definitely keep in mind with all that, it's like just again, just I'd say don't use a torch, but other than that, as long as you're having fun, you're doing it right, you know. And hell, even if you using a torch is you having fun with smoking your pipe, fine, whatever. Just bear in mind that you're probably going to be going through pipes a lot faster. Another reason, Vicks way cheaper. Okay, you can go get refillable lighters as well. The little clicker ones. I literally have a little clicker one right here. Okay, they're not that expensive. Eventually you could upgrade and get yourself 25 bucks or so was what I spent on this guy here on this little Zippo. Whoop. This is a pipe Zippo. The reason why it's a pipe Zippo is because it's set like this, so you light it like that. And the reason for that is so this way it hovers perfectly over the bowl. So this way somebody like like Richard, who literally has a glass eye in one of his eyes, and he always makes a joke about how he burns his pipe all the time. This allows him not to have to worry about that because he can just hover it over the actual tobacco itself, over the actual opening of it, and it's just going to go straight down because normally the flame is straight up. So unless you're pulling in, is the flame actually going to go down? So if you're only pulling down over the tobacco, you're good. even if you're at the side of it, it's only going to dip into where the tobacco is. It's not going to actually dip on the edges. I've never seen it so far, roast any of my bowls. Now, granted, I'm using a black pipe, my ebony here, but even on any of my other ones here, I've not got any scorches from using that. Now, I've got some scorches, like on this guy here, I got a little bit, and that was because I was using my little mini Bic. I was using that guy. That one does cause it sometimes. I think this guy is actually finally cashed. I think it's finally cashed like Johnny Cash. Yes, that is definitely cashed. And I know don't have to take your stem out when it's hot, but that's why I have the military mounts, so I can do that. Plus, it actually wasn't that hot at all either. It was actually fairly warm or cool. Uh, I just said it wasn't hot. I said it was fairly warm. Wow, dumbass. That was smart. Forgive my stupidity here, everybody in the YTPC or the RPSC. Uh, Again, for those that are on Rumble, that's what I'm calling the Rumble pipe smoking community is the RPSC because I haven't seen anybody else really make pipe smoking content over here, other than I feel like there's some like joke kind of style videos. It looks like other than like I said, there's the pipes and Aquinas. Uh, my Latin is crap, so I'm sorry. Um, but there's a video that he did with an interview with Dr. Alan Harrelson. Uh, so there's that, so I do love that one over there. So that I can still enjoy the banter that they had between each other because legitimately I know he had him take it off of YouTube, and unfortunately that sucks because it's like, dude, are you serious? Like, it's all because of a dislike the Harrelson has for uh the other guy for having joined the Daily Wire, and it's just like I'm so annoyed by this stuff like that. It's like, bro, just stop. It's like nobody else, like nobody thought you were affiliated with them or anything like that. And it was just like, oh, hey, look, he's doing a pipe video, and everybody knows you as the big pipe guy. It's like everybody knows you as the dude with 250 pipes. It's like, you know what I mean? Like it's just I don't know. Like the point of all these things is to actually be able to build bridges and to break down those walls that divide us and to bring the commonality ground, the common ground. With especially what makes us as Americans. I think it's foolish to keep doing these things that divide us even further and further. You know, it's like yes, have your morals, have your values, but at the end of the day, it's like you technically are silencing somebody else. And as much as he's an advocate for all these things, it's kind of like, man, it's like it just didn't seem very manly, if you will, for him to do it that way. It just seemed kind of it seemed a little wimpy. Just because somebody joined the Daily Wire, it's like, really, man? Like, come on. Trying to lightly just because I've noticed some of the caking was coming off, and I don't want to take off the cake on this guy. I just kind of formed that a bit. All right, there we go. But yeah, because honestly, though, it's like it's one of those things. I like seeing the more content over on the YouTube side and the Rumble side because the Rumble side there's just very like I said, very niche amount of it. But I can see there's a lot of people who enjoy the the pipe smoking videos, which really makes me super happy to see that. And I really love seeing the people that we get to, meet and talk with over on the YouTube side over here as well. You guys have been amazing. Thank you guys so much also for all the recent views and everything like that on the most recent pipe smoking video as well. So, which this will be technically the third one I'm doing. I actually have another one I've already shot. I just need to edit that guy and get that one uploaded. This will be the third one. So this one will probably be uploaded roughly around, I'd say maybe Wednesday or Thursday. I'm hoping the other one will be uploaded later on for today. Once I get done editing that here in a bit. Um, but yeah, no, honestly though, I am super excited to see some of the other processes I have here with some of the other tobaccos I got cellaring to see where those guys go to. We'll definitely let you guys and update you guys know on those ones. And then honestly too, I'm excited to see where the tobacco industry kind of heads to in the next couple years. I think honestly, we might be at a pivotal fork in the road moment, and I think if things go the right way, it could be maybe not a full on, rejuvenation of the tobacco industry, but maybe we can bring it back from just being a niche that it is with, pipe smoking and tobaccos, and cigar smoking. And maybe we can bring it to be more on the rise and on the upcline again, because, you know, to see that it's had this like kind of like stagnation or this descent, over a certain past amount of years because the fact that you've had so many of these, these dumb, stupid, oh, you can't smoke because of this, you shouldn't smoke because of that, you shouldn't. And it's like, okay, but that's usually only applying to cigarettes that are literally made by like Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds that are being sprayed heavily with tons and tons and tons of chemicals versus tobacco that is grown just purely, and just wholeheartedly the way it was meant to be grown, you know, whether it be for cigars or pipe smoking. And those tobaccos are again whole different beast than what people are getting in their Marlboro, Camel, Winston, Pall Mall, whatever. So again, that's something I want kind of leave everybody to chew on for a little bit there in the mind. And I hope you guys were able to enjoy a pipe bowl with me as well. I was able to at least get through this guy finally and catch this out. I wasn't able to start up the Meerschaum one for this video, but that's okay. I'll smoke it here while I'm editing my videos here and enjoy some Aaron Go Bragg apple crumble. Again, absolutely glad I got some of those because it is definitely not one of those ones that is around anymore. Sadly, it just got discontinued not that long ago, like a couple months ago. The Irish Cream, I think, is still available by Aaron Go Bragg. So if you want to check that out, you can definitely do that. But as far as this beautiful one here goes, it is of no more existence. And it is a velvety burley and brown sugar black Cavendish are married to the earthy sweetness of fresh apple flavor, which, by the way, no. There was no apple flavor. Maybe that's why they discontinued it, but there was no apple flavor, but a lot of nice, like, I would say, like, allspice and, like, cinnamon and nutmeg kind of flavoring in there. And it tastes amazing with literally the brown sugariness of the, black Cavendish that also has or the Burley, then also having like the cocoa and kind of like nutty, vibe of it. It just was so good. So such a good tobacco. I only have a tiny bit of it left, so I'm really savory. That's got that on the bookshelf because I'm like, I gotta savor that one. That's like I loaded one little bowl of it. And I'm like that is good enough. Like this tiny little bowl, that's it. At least for I'd say 3 weeks because I legitimately want to conserve that one as much as possible. So. But let me know though down in the comment section if you guys were able to enjoy a bowl with me, and let me know also your thoughts on, like I said, about the whole 2030 thing going on over on the England side, especially if you're somebody over there, and if you're somebody over here in the United States. Let me know what you think about that whole concept of what's going on for those over there in England, and will you be stocking up on tobaccos and things of that nature, even regardless of being over here in case anything happens on this side of the pond. with any banning or regulations that might happen with tobacco as it is? And do you have any plans for any new pipe acquisitions? I'd love to hear about all that down in the comment section below. And as always, I appreciate all you guys for coming in and hanging out with me and just smoking a bowl or just even listening to me just sit here and converse with y'all. So appreciate it, and you have a wonderful day, everybody. Do